The number of demons flooding into the human world is increasing day by day. Human could not see it, but Akiko and Higa clearly see swarms of ghost insects in the sky like dark clouds. Dango just returned from somewhere and brought bad news. Hiroshi is weakening very quickly. This morning, he just fainted in the office. Worry covered the faces present in the empty lot. Tateyama punched the withered grass, cursing and swearing. Loosing a helping hand while the human world was in a critical situation, Tateyama was angry and went to a Yame restaurant. Dango turned his face to the other side, pretending not to see. Higa hurriedly chased after him. The hasty steps suddenly stopped. The anger in the eyes also disappeared and was replaced by bewilderment mixed with stupidity when seeing the demon fox sitting and playing with the children. Tateyama pointed towards Hyan and Haruka, screaming in horror as if he couldn't believe his eyes. Hiroshi. When did you have a child with her? Why didn't you tell us? The demon fox raised his head, looked at his teammate, and happily replied, "These kids are just plants. They're adorable, aren't they? Ghost insects have surrounded the city. Are you still in the mood to sit here and play family game?" The harsh tone of the question was followed by a powerful punch. One side of Hiroshi's face was red and the corner of his mouth was bleeding. When his teammates responded with a calm and tough attitude, Higa angrily stepped forward. The children hurriedly held Higa's hand, took turns pleading with unclear sounds. Higa swung his hand hard and the children fell like fallen fruit. Hyan was angry, transformed into a demon form, and attacked Higa regardless of the difference in strength. The little demon's aggressive gesture made the anger in Higa's heart disappear. He blocked the attack and laughed. "That kid knows how to be funny. It makes me really want to fight to you once." As soon as Higa finished speaking, the little fox bit his hand with all his strength. The former detective of the dead looked at that aggressive boy and then glanced sideways at Hiroshi. The demon fox laughed and hastily explained, "It's just a greeting. Dango said you weren't feeling well so we came to visit. But with this bodyguard here, no one will dare to cause trouble with you." Higa grabbed the little fox's tail and pulled it out, judging by a few hints. The pure white doe bared its fangs and claws, scratching wildly, threatening Higa. The former detective stuck out his tongue and teased the tiny fox, and then threw it to the demon fox. Hiroshi received his unruly child back from Higa's hands. His face also became colder and his eyes became sharper. The little fox jumped to the ground, took her younger sister inside, left space for his father to chat with the strangers. "Do you still doubt her? Who are you doing this for?" As soon as Dango finished speaking, a thin line of light passed by, causing a few strands of red hair to fall to the ground. Seeing his teammate reluctantly sigh, the fire demon spoke frankly. "Those stupid secrets she's hiding aren't worth your life. Don't waste your time with that kind of woman. But I know that information is true. Kaoru come here for us and disappear for us. That is her mission. And you risked everything for her." Hiroshi remained silent but did not try to deny the truth. Face to face with a dissatisfied attitude, the emerald eyes became even more determined and cold. The demon fox had already lost Kaoru once, and this time, he would stay by the rat's side until the day she disappeared. All pain, disadvantage and resentment that the demon rat has had to experience is more than enough. Now is the time to make up for it with all one's ability, knowing that all efforts will ultimately have to surrender to time and destiny. His blue eyes did not waver or fear when they saw the black flames of the demon world burst out from Dango's hands. The demon fox took another step forward, using his calmest and most calm tone to quell the anger in his teammates' hearts. "I know what you guys came here for. Even if Dango burns this place down, I won't blame you. However, you won't know how to destroy the demons and low-level demons coming from the turbulent space. Because they are not as simple as low-level demons in the demon realm." The black flame gradually faded and disappeared. Dango lowered his hand, looked at his teammate standing on the same side as the enemy, and asked, "What way?" Hiroshi took out a bottle of emerald green medicine and placed it in Dango's hand, explaining, "This medicine is prepared from poison from another world. Using it soaked in a spell and thrown into the turbulent space will cause those lowly creatures to lose direction and bite each other to death. Just use it once. If there is a way, why not try it?" Higa was excited and turned to the Styx ferryman. "Akiko, taking us there." Hiroshi and his teammates went to the dimensional road and witnessed creatures from another world slaughtering each other when they smelled the poison laced in the spell. In less than half an hour, the uninvited people turned into sticky swamps and dissolved on their own. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief because the burden had been lifted. The demon fox returned to a Yame restaurant, looked at Kaoru who was deep in sleep, and reminisced about the rare happy days in the past. Now, he doesn't have much strength or demon energy left, so he can't wake up the demon rat again. His demonic aura may recover after a while, but the day of Kaoru's departure is very near. Hyan and Haruka gently pulled their mother's sleeve and cried out with sad sounds when they saw that Kaoru did not wake up. Hiroshi patted their heads, told their mother to rest a little more and then taught them how to protect themselves. The door to a Yame restaurant was once again closed as a feeling of fatigue took over the fox demon's body. He hugged the children in his arms, put them under a warm blanket and lay next to Kaoru, closing his eyes to enjoy a rare bit of peace. Without his teammates here, he didn't have to act strong and tough anymore. The familiar scent gently wafts by. Hiroshi held the hand that was playing with his hair, pressed it to his face, and smiled happily. His gentle blue eyes passionately looked at the naughty girl. The demon fox used both hands to pull Kaoru down again and was embarrassed to see his children biting their fingers, watching their parents prepare to express their feelings to each other in an unusual way. It's adult time. So, kids, please go out. The demon fox happily explained. The children left the warm room with doubts and questions. The rat looked at the wall calendar that had been crossed out in red for nearly 2/3 of the time, trying to suppress a sigh. The glass jar containing Hiroshi's 400 years of practice was returned to its owner. The fox looked at Kaoru with a puzzled expression, then placed the precious item in the rat hand, reassuringly, "Don't worry about me. Right now, we still have other more urgent things to do." The demon fox took out a bottle of medicine hidden in a drawer and gave it to Kaoru, continuing, "I gave an unfinished part of the poison to Higa. It really kills the demons, but the effect is not long-lasting. You're the one who created this medicine, so I hope you can give me a chance to make it perfect." Kaoru looked at the potion and awkwardly nodded. The night before, after arguing with Hiroshi, she made this medicine in the hope of ending all the troubles in the dimensional path soon. However, she collapsed when the potion was not yet complete. What Hiroshi said is not wrong. After a while, when the poison loses its effectiveness, the demons and low-level demons will return more often than before. Just thinking about that, the demon rat did not dare to face the person who trusted her with his life. The recipe for making poison in anger belongs to the demon fox. He put the medicine bottle in his jacket pocket and hugged the small body in front of him, whispering, "I've never felt like we're as far apart as we are now. If only you were just a monster came from the demon world, I would too. It would be great if I wasn't a detective of the dead world. I just want to be selfish for you, for this little family for once. We always have the right to choose. If we choose wrong, choose again. As long as we're alive, there's still hope. Everything from now on will still be the same, only I will lose you forever." The moment he saw through the emotions in the fox's eyes, the empty arguments that had not yet been uttered disappeared. Love urges two faces to come closer together. Kaoru closed her eyes, ready to receive infinite gentleness as she felt the fox's warm breath getting closer and closer. As soon as her red lips touched hers, the sound of the door jamming broke the silence in private space. They quickly looked towards the door. Hyan and Haruka invited each other to reenact the scene just now, making the rat even more embarrassed, hiding her face behind her sleeves. Hiroshi grabbed the two troublemakers and asked seriously, "What do you want to talk about?" Realizing the opportunity had come, each child pulled someone's hand and signaled them to go out. The king of hell in the form of a young man wearing a white suit and a kiko stood waiting in front of the restaurant gate. Looking at their attitudes, Kaoru and Hiroshi also guessed that the revelation they were about to reveal was not very good. "We came to bring Kaoru back to the dead world to be punished." The king of hell spoke up. The story of the invasion of the human world and the expansion of the turbulence in space is related to Kaoru. I know you need her, but for the sake of human world, I advise you to voluntarily let Kaoru come with us. Let's say what you just said is related to Kaoru, but what evidence do you have to convict her? I don't believe in empty words. Besides, all this time, Kaoru has always been by my side and has never left this place. Thus, your conclusion that Kaoru intentionally opened the tunnel and manipulated the demon insects is unfounded. Hiroshi calmly objected. Don't forget, the human world is my second home. If I discover anyone intending to harm this world, I will fight as a yokai to protect this city. Lord Pluto frowned, looking annoyed at the arguments of blind bigotry. Hiroshi still examined every bit of expression on the representative of the dead with steady eyes. Akiko stepped back slightly when she saw the demonic aura surrounding the demon fox flare up like a flame. His demonic force generated from anger is strong enough, ready to confront anyone who wants to step forward and take the demon rat out of the safety circle the demon fox has built. A bright ball of aura appeared, hovering in Pluto's hand instead of a threat. You intend to seal Kaoru? Hiroshi frowned, looking at the threads of spiritual energy that were constantly moving around the ball of light in the King of Hell's hand, and asked. And you too. If you persist in opposing, don't blame me for not showing mercy. The King of Hell affirmed. Human world matters are urgent. I hope you think carefully. The guilty will be punished, the innocent will be free. If you truly believe in her and the dead, let her come with us. Hiroshi, don't oppose them. Let me go with them. Kaoru placed her hand on the fox demon's shoulder and spoke softly. The demonic aura surrounding the fox's body reluctantly returned to its normal state. The smile of the person in control of the situation is not enough to soothe the worries and waves of insecurity in the fox lover's heart. The demon rat affirmed in a firm voice. Believe in me. Hiroshi hugged Hyan and Haruka tightly in his arms, preventing the two children from running after Kaoru when they saw her going with the king of hell to the dead world. They disappeared like mist in the wind right before the fox's eyes. The children looked up at their father with sad and mournful eyes. Not receiving an answer from the fox demon, they leaned out of their father's arms, frantically searched around the area where their mother had disappeared, then together held their father's hand, begging him to find her. The fox kissed and reassured the children and then took them home. A day passed, then 2 or 3 days, but Kaoru didn't return. Hyan and Haruka could only hang around Hiroshi's private room, looking out the window with eyes full of hope and then surrounding the fox every time they saw him return after a day of work. The sight of the demon fox eating late at night with the children could not escape Dango's eyes. Standing and observing from a tree branch opposite the window of the fox demon's private room, the fire demon clearly saw all the actions and emotions on Hiroshi's face. Sometimes when the children discovered him, Dango just snorted coldly and quickly left. In the dead world, interrogations cannot exchange any valuable information. Having run out of options, the king of hell had to resort to whipping but only received the stubborn and icy gaze of the stubborn person. Kaoru knelt on the floor, looked straight at the leader of the dead, and responded with silence until she fainted. A bucket of cold water couldn't wake Kaoru up, and a strong whip couldn't even wake up the rat. Looking at the peaceful face of the person who fainted, Akiko sensed something unusual. She quickly begged the king of hell to stop the interrogation and urgently check Kaoru's health. The death guide withdrew her hand, her face pale with fear, but she still tried to call Kaoru's name a few more times. No response. Akiko stood up, trembling and reported, "Lord Pluto, she's dead." The king of hell was stunned for a moment because he did not dare to believe the truth before his eyes. The group of goblins performed an interrogation on Kaoru's body again and confirmed that what Akiko said was true. The king of hell left his position, personally verified it, then crossed his arms and frowned in thought. It's strange, she just died but we don't see her soul. Akiko, contacting with the Shinigami on duty in the human world and the dead world, asking them to capture Kaoru's soul, hurry. But my lord, she is dead. Do we need to chase and kill like that? We were too negligent. What we brought here to interrogate is just a soulless body. The king of hell affirmed. It was Akiko's turn to be stunned and dumbfounded because she did not dare to believe what the king of hell had just said. A god of death who had brought millions of souls to the dead world like her did not think she would be tricked by an elf as Kaoru. Because throughout the long journey, Akiko was always next to Kaoru and never noticed anything unusual from the rat demon. Kaoru suddenly passed away during the interrogation process, making Akiko really confused and awkward because she didn't know how to face and report this unfortunate incident to Hiroshi. Higa, Dango and Tateyama were silent before the story Akiko had just told. The Death Realm guide looked at the grass dyed with the eerie red color of the sunset and silently prayed that Hiroshi would not be shocked or angry when he learned that the Death Realm had directly caused Kaoru's death. The sound of the door being pushed aside broke the quiet atmosphere. The fox stood at the entrance, blocking all natural light, causing darkness to cover the upper half of his face, creating a cold, unpredictable expression. The door closed. Higa reluctantly turned on the light to clearly see the face of his teammate who had just arrived and felt relieved to know that Hiroshi had never been angry or upset. The fox demon sat next to Dango, observed the people present in the room and then proactively spoke. Everyone called me here, it must be urgent. I hope you will be very calm when accepting this truth. Akiko replied but did not dare to look directly into the eyes of the person who had just arrived. The Styx ferryman bowed her head, looked at the soft lines on the wooden floor, trying to find the right words of comfort. We weren't deliberate. But Kaoru is dead, Hiroshi continued with the hidden truth. The unusually calm tone surprised Akiko and the rest. They both looked towards the fox demon, trying to probe and confirm whether the fox demon was really okay with intentionally telling that painful truth. Hiroshi poured himself a cup of hot tea, took a sip and explained, I knew about it last night. Exactly at midnight, the children suddenly woke up and burst into tears. At that time, I couldn't feel her aura anymore. I am terrible sorry. She can't come back anymore. Allow me to be selfish for once because I don't want to accept forgiveness. The fox put down the cup of tea and stood up, walking towards the main door. The death world and everyone are still my friends. However, I won't let this go unless Kaoru comes back to life. Hiroshi. Higa reminded in an annoyed voice when he saw his teammates openly turning against the dead world because of a stranger. Kaoru willingly came with you, but will the dead world have any mercy on her? Hiroshi released several ghost insects. As soon as they flew up, they were cut off by sharp leaves soaked in poison. The fox demon looked at his teammates and affirmed, Higa, if you put yourself in my situation, and the one who died was Chiharu, you would understand why I behaved like that. These short explanations, but more damaging than hundreds of sharp knives, made Higa clench his fists, retain some of his composure, and let the demon fox leave the temple peacefully. Dango also disappeared before dark. No one knew where the evil eye monster went and they didn't question it either. Seeing the fox demon sitting still, looking lifelessly at the withered purple flower, and letting the children play with his hair, Dango picked up a stone and threw it on the glass window to remind his teammates of his existence. As soon as Hiroshi opened the door, a series of quick, shiny swords continuously attacked as if trying to take his life. The children did not hesitate to confront each other as they were eliminated from the battle with just one sword strike. If the fox demon hadn't had time to use his hand to block the sword, Hyan and Haruka would have taken the brunt of the damage. Dango. This is my room. Hiroshi reminded and pressed the blade down. But a few minutes ago, the person here was not you. Dango retrieved his weapon and calmly sat on the fox demon's bed, leaning his back against the wall at the head of the bed, smiling provocatively. So I came in here to kill the intruder. Responding to that smile was a gentle smile and a sigh of relief. The fox demon took the two children to the garden outside the window and took out the bottle of medicine hidden behind the bookshelf, explaining, Kaoru is the final ingredient to complete this medicine. She's dead. The death world didn't return her body to me, so I don't know what to find to replace it. Or do you need that corpse to revive her? Dango glanced at his teammates, revealing. Before you came, Akiko told us that when we arrived in the dead world, Kaoru was already a soulless corpse. That is, her soul secretly escaped from her body before reaching the realm of death. Do you hide that part of her soul? She has never been here before. Stealing is your specialty. Dango laughed again. If you like, just do what you want. The security door in the realm of death can't stop you, can it? Hiroshi smiled and nodded. At midnight, the Death Realm Task Force was in a commotion when they discovered that Kaoru's body suddenly disappeared for unknown reasons. There were no signs at the scene that a thief had broken in. Fuese was urgently summoned to the Dead Realm, coordinating with a special task force to investigate the mysterious disappearance. Just then, Zero hurriedly ran to the main hall, informing Hiroshi to come to the judgment door to claim Kaoru's body, making the King of Hell even more confused. I thought you stole her body. The King of Hell confessed. I don't want to get myself into any more trouble. Hiroshi calmly responded. What I want is Kaoru's body. Akiko said that after she died, you kept her body here. It was gone before you arrived. Or did you intentionally burn it? You. Angry eyes faced sharp and cold eyes. The King of Hell did not expect that just because of a strange girl, Hiroshi was willing to doubt and openly confront Death World. The fox still stood at the door of judgment, waiting for a satisfactory answer. Fuese and the Death Realm Task Force walked to the door of judgment and announced, that body really disappeared as if it had never appeared here. To prove that what he said was true, Fuese took Hiroshi into the body preservation room and let the demon fox see where Kaoru's body was kept. The inside of the ice coffin was completely empty. There was no trace of the decomposed body and the layer of charms strung around it showed no damage at all. Hiroshi brought his hand closer to the talisman thread. White light flared up like a fueled fire and made the fox demon's hand bleed. Hiroshi withdrew his hand, looked at the deep cuts that were bleeding and then looked at the empty coffin, his eyes not showing any emotion. No matter what type of monster, strong or weak, if you want to get what's inside the coffin, you must break the magic net protecting the coffin. And the trapped person who wants to escape must do the same. Kaoru's body is the first case of escaping from a magic net without damaging the net. Fuese affirmed, then glanced at Hiroshi's icy face that hid his emotions, frowning in question. You were with her. Surely you know what evil magic she uses. Kaoru is human. A person with a bit of demonic energy. That's all. On what basis do you dare to make such an assertion? Hiroshi looked at the female detective from the dead world and replied in a calm voice and very calm attitude. Most demons can absorb human blood, but she cannot. Even a small number of monsters cannot absorb human blood. Higa is a monster, but he also doesn't drink human blood. Fuese objected, her tone becoming harsh. Do you really not know, or are you intentionally not knowing? Higa's case is an exception. He's different from Kaoru. To be more precise, Higa is a half-demon, raised by humans, so he has lost some of his species' instincts. Hiroshi countered with a very calm attitude. I've been with Kaoru long enough to trust her. And it's enough that I believe in her. Fuese was angry but couldn't find reason to continue arguing. She silently let Hiroshi leave the body storage room. The fox went to a Yame restaurant, walked around as if to recall some memories, then closed the door and created another layer of magic net to protect the cold house. The children still didn't want to believe the truth. They kept pulling Hiroshi's hair, signaling to go inside the barrier to check again. The loss came so suddenly that the children did not want to believe the truth. They believed Kaoru was still alive and was afraid that the chimpanzee would be sad when she woke up but saw no one. The fox just patted their heads and left the land full of sad memories. Akiko disguised herself as an ordinary person, lurking in the crowd, secretly observing and then sighing bitterly when she saw Hiroshi walking quietly, alone in the crowded street. Fuese followed Hiroshi until the demon fox returned to his room. Apart from the two children born from plants, the place where the fox was resting was completely normal. Once he was sure that the room did not contain a wanted soul, Fuese informed Akiko and the King of Hell and then hurriedly left. The female detective did not know that Dango was standing on the roof of a skyscraper apartment building and looking at her. If it was Hiroshi, wouldn't you guys follow along so easily? It seems that the people of the dead world really put me on the blacklist after the declaration of war just now. Hiroshi stood behind Dango and spoke. Even without turning around, the fire demon realized that the old Hiroshi had truly returned. Dango smiled slightly and commented, "You're playing so wild, surely you had a plan in advance." Of course. Hiroshi's emerald eyes revealed a deep and challenging look. They declared war. I have to fight. Like a meteor in the sky, Akiko flew across the city but still didn't see anything special. A day has passed since the rat demon body disappeared, and the Styx River ferryman has still not found the rat's soul. She stopped, thought for a moment and then went to the forest next to Niran Temple. Shin was always there, sitting with his back against the trunk of an old tree covered in lichen, looking towards the horizon. It's strange. Kaoru died but you remained calm, not frantic or angry like Hiroshi. Akiko sat on the oar, floated in midair, looking at Shin and commented. The response to the Styx ferryman's doubts was a friendly smile. Shin turned his eyes to the horizon, looked at the red sunset and explained, I've been with her for half my life, I'm familiar with her temperament, and I remember all the childish games she played, so it's not strange or worried when she disappeared from life. Kaoru said that death or life is just a game that changes the way of existence in the human world. Today we are separated, tomorrow we will meet again in another form. And I believe in that. Since the day Kaoru died, have you seen her soul? That depends on her. I'll just stay here and observe until the day I feel completely secure and then leave. Shin's eyes suddenly became distant. But that Hiroshi, it's so untrustworthy. Do you still hate him for killing you? A forced smile briefly appeared on Shin's face and then disappeared. Memories of Kaoru's desperate eyes suddenly returned when she learned that the final opponent was Hiroshi. The rat demon tried her best to plead and stop, but because the opponent was too strong and gave Shin too much excitement, he rushed into the fight like a moth to a flame. By the time the battle ended, Shin had lost Kaoru forever to the strongest opponent he had ever met when he was alive. Seeing the pensive look of regret on the face of the soul, the feeling of guilt made Akiko only gave him a few words of encouragement and then moved to another place, continued to investigate Kaoru's whereabouts but only receiving a shake of the head. Sitting on the branch of the cherry tree opposite Hiroshi's bedroom, every day witnessing the sight of the fox raising its cubs made Dango bored and returned to the demon world. Realizing himself had escaped his teammates' supervision, Hiroshi opened a secret passage, took Hyan and Haruka there, then quickly closed the door and went into the forest. As soon as Kaoru saw Hiroshi's silhouette flickering near the barrier, her figure carried a familiar warmth and swooped into the fox demon's arms as if it had been a long time since the last time she had seen him. "I'm sorry for not being able to give you normal love." Kaoru's voice carried regret as if she was about to cry, causing a feeling of insecurity to strangle Hiroshi's heart. The fox demon tried to stay calm, gently stroking her wiry black hair that hung down her back and listening to Kaoru's confession as they sat next to each other. In this reincarnation, Kaoru cannot live too long in the human world. Her existence had caused too much disturbance in the regions of space and it was only a matter of time before the dead realm discovered her faking her death. To legalize her death, Kaoru was forced to leave and never return to this world. "Are you going to leave now?" Hiroshi tried to suppress a sigh after hearing all the sincere words. And the gentle shake of the head and the wind-like voice carried the worries in the fox demon heart far away. So gently, "I will go soon, but not now." Then she bowed her head and confessed all her sins. "I should have kept this feeling alone. It's selfish of me to force you to accept loving me and then hurt you like this. Idiot. Everything is my choice." The rat demon hugged the demon fox and burst into tears like a child. The image of Chiharu lying motionless on the sand with a deep cut on her neck appeared before the fox demon's eyes again. This time, the murderer of Higa's girlfriend appeared clearly, making the demon fox completely suffocated because he couldn't believe the truth. Like Hiroshi, Higa also did not dare to believe that the person who killed Chiharu to provoke the group of former Death Realm detectives was an old man wearing glasses. But there was no laughter after the information the fox had just provided. Each person has a different expression. Some are thoughtful, some are indifferent, some are worried. It seems they believe very much in the secrets discovered by Hiroshi. Other than that, did you get any other information? Higa asked with real seriousness. After Chiharu was killed, you were very angry and crazy about revenge. Hiroshi hesitated for a moment and then bluntly revealed all the information that he had exchanged with 400 years of spiritual power and his first love. But you lost. I and Dango avenged you but failed. We will also follow you. What about me? Tateyama pointed at his stupid face, wondering in a rather surprised voice. You're still alive. That's also why I wonder why the killer intentionally left you behind. Hiroshi answered and then suddenly fell silent when he realized he was about to reveal a more important secret. In order to avoid suspicion and change the fate-determined outcome, the fox proposed. Instead of sitting still and discussing things, we need to have countermeasures. This opponent is more terrifying than any we have ever encountered. So easy, Higa affirmed. He chose Chiharu as the key. I will protect her and not let him approach her. Dango smirked, his amber eyes clearly showing aggression instead of the countermeasures in his head. The fire demon is ready to confront and fight no matter how strong the enemy is. Tateyama and Hiroshi agreed to keep this secret, not revealing it to anyone, especially Akiko, Hina and Chiharu. The meeting between the former detectives ended in silence. Dango's evil eye followed Hiroshi's every step and slowly closed when he saw the fox returning home. Realizing that himself was being watched, the fox demon turned his head slightly, probed, and closed the door when he was completely reassured. The children hiding in the bookshelf jumped out, hugged Hiroshi's shoulders, and suddenly looked around searching. Their mother didn't come home with father, so Haruka thought they were angry at each other and burst into tears. Hyan tried to comfort his younger sister and then pulled his father's hair as if to ask about his mother. Apparently they both felt Kaoru's existence but couldn't express it in words. Hiroshi could only comfort the children with a piece of cake laced with a little anesthetic. At this moment, he did not want Kaoru's identity to be revealed, so he agreed to hurt the child. Looking at the children hugging each other sleeping after eating, Hiroshi suddenly remembered the sweet night-like honeymoon when he lived with Kaoru at the Ayame restaurant. During those days, because he was always immersed in happiness, Hiroshi did not foresee the situation of separation coming very close. The fox demon opened the secret drawer, took out the bottle of immortality medicine and the recipe to see. Kaoru's words of advice when they were in the forest suddenly returned. Must keep this carefully until the day Kaoru was ready to appear again. Busy thinking about the fox's meaningful words, Hiroshi did not expect Hyan to wake up and witness the entire process of the fox hiding the precious items. The clever boy closed his eyes, pretended to sleep and secretly approached the place where his father kept the elixir, checking every nook and cranny. At first glance, the place where the medicine is hidden looks exactly like a normal wall corner. Hyan looked carefully before finding the secret compartment opening. However, before he could touch it, another hand grabbed it. This kid is just like his father. Revealing it is theft. Dango looked at the miniature version of his teammate, sarcastically, then smiled mischievously. Because he is my child. The fox came out of the dressing room, happily affirming. You know the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. In the past, even if we held a knife to your neck, you still wouldn't reveal those secrets. Today you took the initiative to say everything. Was it your intention or was it suggested by Kaoru? Kaoru is dead. There's no use keeping those things. I just hope we can change that future. In human form, you could easily lose your life because of that gullibility. Dango threw the little thief to his teammates and jumped onto the cherry branch without forgetting to ask. When will that debt grow up? Whenever he wants. If you see him growing up, remember to tell me who my child resembles. Just like you. The fire demon smirked and quickly left the garden. Hyan secretly looked at his father and then looked at the place where the precious medicine bottle was hidden. Hiroshi hides nothing from his identical child. The fox showed his son where the medicine bottle was kept and told him to protect that precious item on his behalf. When the time comes, if the fox demon cannot take it himself, Hyan and Haruka will take over this task for the fox demon. Listening to his father's advice, the little fox was able to hide the worry in his eyes. He secretly looked at his father again. Obviously his father is very healthy, but why did he say such things as his last words? Hyan pulled his father's hair, trying to ask questions with sad, worried eyes. The fox smiled when he saw his stubborn child fall asleep again because he did not have the strength to cope with the anesthetic herbs. The evil eye cannot see through the barrier in the dark forest. Continuous waves of light dazzled the fire demon's eyes. The third eye slowly closed, letting Hiroshi out of sight. Kaoru greeted her visitor with a forced smile. This hasty reincarnation did not give her much spiritual power. Lifetime is also shorter. In the middle of the vast forest, the rat was like a ghost wearing a green kimono, her long black hair covering her thin, prominent cheekbones. The smooth white skin had become pale, and the warmth on the demon rat's body was almost gone. I did as you told me. Now, you have to tell me who my upcoming opponent is. Kaoru covered her mouth with her hand, coughed softly, then quickly hid the blood on her hand behind her back. Eyes filled with worry watched. Hands that still smelled of blood clutched the soft green fabric. Hiroshi patiently probed and waited, ignoring the silent pleas in the rat demon's eyes. I know you and everyone else are always ready to fight, but this person is really strong and is someone you should not confront. Don't give me innocuous words. I took the risk to come here, at least give me valuable information. Did you find me because you care about me or just because of the information I know? Kaoru suddenly asked and was almost about to cry when he saw the cold, determined look in the fox's eyes. For information, Hiroshi hesitated and then fell silent. Reason forces the fox to hide the remaining half of his true words. Kaoru nodded slightly, pursed her lips and smiled desperately. For information. Hiroshi came to her because of the information she had. And she left her homeland and her life to come here to save him. Yet what she received in return were just lies. She turned her back to the demon fox and asserted, "This information is related to my life. So, I have to live until the day you die. Sorry for being so selfish." The rat walked quietly. The demon fox quickly chased after her, grabbed her hand but was pushed down. She turned her head, forced a smile, and begged, "Don't use those false feelings to deceive me. I'm so afraid that I will believe it's real and never be able to throw away the memories we had. Goodbye, my first and only love." Hiroshi remained silent, standing still, watching the figure of a girl in a blue kimono slowly sink into the white mist before his eyes. A drop of bright red blood fell from the tightly clenched hand of the fox demon. The bloody hand punched the ground hard. The power of hatred and anger awakens plants that have been fossilized for thousands of years, causing them to break out of the ground, blocking every corner. But Kaoru's figure in front kept getting smaller and then disappeared into the fog. Only the fox remained alone in the deserted forest. Have I lived too long? I've lived too long to see a stranger like you taking care of every meal for me, drinking wine with me, and confiding in me. And the son I spent nearly half of my life raising has disappeared and disappeared. As she spoke, Anko repeatedly banged her hands on the table and laughed helplessly. In her drunken state, Ms. Anko no longer felt pain. Because physical pain is not enough to ease the pain in her heart. And just like that, all pent-up emotions broke out into tears. The young woman covered her face and waved her hand, signaled Kaoru to go somewhere else. Anko did not want the sincere stranger to look at her with pitying eyes. Kaoru held back a sigh, collected the dishes on the table and quietly left. Anko put her head on the table, sobbing. Many years ago, just because she wanted to forget the pain of her broken family, Anko went to a bar and drank alone until getting drunk. When she woke up, she found herself lying in bed with a strange man. He said he would take responsibility and live with Anko for the rest of his life. However, when Higa was 7 years old, the ungrateful man left to have temporary fun outside and never returned. Anko knew her son was not at fault. But his eyes were exactly like the eyes of the person who betrayed her. Every time Higa looked at her, the feeling of hatred forced her to vent her anger on her son. Her behavior was so cold and strange, and she always left him behind to pursue all-night drinking parties day after day. That's why, when growing up, Higa retaliated the way she used to. For 3 days, Anko hasn't seen a sign of her son coming home. Waiting too long makes she mentally tired. She drank again, got drunk, caught a cold, and lay unconscious in bed. If Kaoru hadn't come, she would probably be a cold corpse right now. "Miss Anko, I cooked a bowl of porridge. Please eat a little and then went to sleep. Don't let your stomach go hungry." Kaoru lowered her voice and pleaded, then placed the bowl of porridge on the table. The fragrance mixed in the warm steam attracted Anko's rare attention. Out of respect for the stranger, Anko ate a few spoonfuls, then put her hands on her face and smiled and asked, "What are you being so nice to me for? What value does this house have for you? I don't expect too much from this world. I just want a place to live temporarily. As long as you allow me to continue staying here until your son returns, I will pay all living expenses. So, go out and buy a bottle of wine for me. It must be the sake in the Okane store in the Baika. It's about 10 kilometers from here. I can only drink sake there. Yes. Please excuse me." Waiting for Kaoru to leave her house, Anko stood up, took long steps into the yard, put her hands on her hips, and shouted, "You ungrateful son. If you have the guts to go home, come here. Let me find you. I'll kick you out of Japan." Aside from the sound of the wind and the concerned looks of a few passers-by, nothing special happened. Anko hugged her face and burst into tears. Apparently she heard her son chatting with someone outside the gate. Turns out it was just a drunken hallucination. Anko staggered into the house, gently shook the empty wine bottle on the table and threw it against the wall. The broken wine bottle was like a fragile hope that had just rekindled in her heart. The things she needed left her, and the things she didn't need remained inert before her eyes. But Anko doesn't need a bowl of porridge from strangers. All she needed was for Higa to return and have dinner with her. That wish will never come true. Higa was beside Chiharu's side day and night and ignores his girlfriend who always seems annoyed by her boyfriend's timeless ability to be a freeloader. Why don't you come home? Aren't you bored following me all day? I plan to open a noodle shop right next to your Shiratori eatery, so I'll learn cooking secrets here. Higa replied with a cocky smile. In the future, we live together. Even if you starve me or kick me out of this house, I will still have a noodle shop to survive the day. Don't worry too much. Chiharu is so difficult on the outside, but her heart loves you so much. If she didn't love you, she would have kicked you out the day you visited my eatery. Chiharu's father happily explained and pulled his future son-in-law down to the kitchen. Follow me, I'll teach you how to cook delicious food at this eatery. Besides, don't follow my child so closely, give her some private space, so she can easily accept your presence. Yes, you're right, I will learn everything. The happy scene and conversation between father and boyfriend were both witnessed by Chiharu. Standing at the top of the first floor stairs, Chiharu could see a corner of the kitchen and Higa's busy back. The sight of a boy who only knew how to fight had to struggle with rice flour, learn how to make noodles, and cut vegetables made Chiharu laugh. At first, he boldly said he wanted to compete with Shiratori Eatery, but now he's gasping for breath with misshapen vegetables and half-wet, half-dry dough. She didn't know how long it will take for Higa to catch up with the current owner's level. As if he felt his girlfriend was looking at him, the former Death Realm detective deliberately raised his white face because of the powder for his girlfriend to see and then grinned. To protect Chiharu and change the group's future, sacrificing a little time and losing his image was worth it. Everyone laughed at the weekend meeting when they heard Higa talk about his journey of learning to cook and being tortured by his own cooking. As the only one out of step with the joy of his friends, Hiroshi was quiet as if he was pursuing very personal and distant plans. There was a chilling silence in his emerald eyes. Silence quickly covered the large room. Dango sat on the window, looking towards the old forest. A few days ago, the barrier there was still very strong. In just one night, everything disappeared as if it had never existed. Now encountering a different attitude from his teammates, Dango secretly guessed where the sadness in the fox's heart came from. Hiroshi, news. Dango proactively opened his mouth, breaking the terrifying stagnant atmosphere. What do you mean? Information about upcoming opponents. He is a very strong person from another world. That place is not the demon world, human world or dead world but the same hometown as Kaoru. Did she say that? Kaoru is dead. I guess so based on the investigation results at Dimension Road. Hiroshi answered and then suddenly fell silent because of a sharp pain in the left side of his chest. In Baika town, Kaoru crouched behind an old wall, trying to suppress her cough but to no avail. Blood and dry sounds escaped from the rat's mouth and disappeared like smoke. The miserable appearance of the rat demon happened to fall into the sights of the monsters nearby. They advanced, blocking the path in front of them. The rat slowly retreated, her eyes never leaving those who had just arrived. As soon as her heel retreated a little further, she stopped. There is no way back behind. Kaoru hid her hand full of sharp claws behind her back, still looking at the low-level demons. Remember, the spiritual power of the last resurrection was enough to revive 4 people. If that spiritual energy is depleted, more than 2 people will die. The instructions of the guardian of the space regions echoed in her ears. Kaoru hesitated for a moment then withdrew her weapon. The bad guys immediately rushed forward, surrounding all 4 sides. Kaoru grabbed the bottle of wine she had just bought and hit the nearest guy on the head. He angrily rushed forward, snatched the broken wine bottle and threw it away. As soon as the big rough hand touched the shirt of the rat, it was cut off. Blood continuously poured down from the severed body part. The villain looked at the sharp claws on Kaoru's hand and then roared, swinging his bleeding arm into his opponent's face. A few streaks of fresh blood shot into Kaoru's eyes, making it impossible for Kaoru to see her surroundings clearly. She only felt her opponent's demonic aura, savage laughter and painful screams. It all happened so fast. When her eyesight was restored, the rat saw a strange man standing in front of her, smiling at her. The gentle smile was very similar to the smile Shin had given her the day before. These people are not worth your concern. Let's go. The strange boy spoke up. Kaoru was bewildered for a moment and then was shocked to see Shin's soul gradually appear next to the person who had just saved her. I borrowed this boy's body to save you. Either way, he's dead, so his soul won't be affected much. Don't worry, but if you do that, you won't be able to be human anymore. My responsibility is to protect you. Shin looked up at the reincarnation door in the gradually shrinking sky and forced a smile to admit. Without you by my side in Afterworld, what does it mean for me to be human? The door of reincarnation closed, turned into a pale purple star, flashed and disappeared. Kaoru and Shin left the deserted alley without knowing that above, there was a Shinigami watching them. Eyes filled with sadness recorded every action of the fateless lovers and silently sent it to Akiko. As the person responsible for monitoring Shin to find Kaoru's whereabouts, the anonymous guide suddenly softened at what she saw. They've always been apart before or after, so it's better to let them be together for another minute or so. The happy meeting at Niran Temple was interrupted when another Shinigami arrived to announce that Kaoru had been found. The news came at the wrong time, causing Akiko to shyly look at Hiroshi. The demon fox still maintained his usual calm attitude and agreed to go with his teammates to capture criminals wanted by the dead. A bad premonition forced the couple to stop at an empty lot with few passers-by. Kaoru gently closed her eyes and sighed. Shin appeared behind the dusty wind. They sat next to each other in silence for a long time and didn't care that the people of the dead were right behind them, just a street away. Dead world is hunting you. Shin spoke up, dissatisfaction and anger clearly showing in his eyes. Can't everything you do in exchange for some freedom for you? Don't pay attention anymore. They can't catch me before it's all over. Don't be reckless anymore. The team of former Death Realm detectives is no match for him. Being alone is like rushing to your death. I didn't say I would confront that person directly. I came here to rewrite a different ending for them and me. They are part of my life. Until now, that has never changed. I owe them a lot. A little sacrifice is nothing. Leaving your homeland and your life to say it's nothing. Don't deceive yourself anymore. Today, if I hadn't come in time, you would have fallen prey to low-level monsters. Without me in the future, who will protect you? The future you said there were only 3 days left. When I finish writing the final ending, I will return to that place. Honestly, I don't want to go back anymore. In a land of cannibals and people trampling on each other to survive, I am always insecure and scared because I don't know what tomorrow will bring. Everywhere I am the weak one. It's better to be a useful weak person than a soulless corpse that only bows its head and cries every night. That is enough. I will become the spiritual energy you consumed in the last battle. That's not what I meant. I never expected that. Just let me become a part of you. At least, I will be able to protect you again even though I no longer exist in this world. Shin placed his hand on Kaoru's shoulder and slowly closed his eyes. As the demon rat's tears fell from her pale face, the image of the man from the Warring States period gradually faded. The former detectives appeared at that heartbreaking moment and became reluctant witnesses to the separation without an appointment to meet again. No matter how pitiful she is still a criminal of the dead. Akiko reluctantly reminded her teammates. Let's take her away. They looked at Hiroshi shyly. The fox neither agreed nor objected. No one can guess what that boy is thinking. Just know that when they took another step, the fox still stood still and hid all emotions in his eyes. As soon as Akiko approached Kaoru, the sound of a motorcycle engine ripped through the air. Someone rushed into the field like an arrow being shot and robbed someone right in front of the group of former detectives. Dango chased after him and put his sword on the driver's neck, forcing the car to stop immediately. As soon as the motorbike stopped, the rest of the people followed. The driver took off his helmet and looked at Higa's group with puzzled eyes. What do you want? Where is the person you captured? There's only me in this motorbike. The driver confirmed. It's true, I was speeding a bit, but you guys aren't traffic police, so why arrest me? I saw you run onto the field with my own eyes. Higa quickly accused. If it's not you, then who will? You people lined up and took up all the roads. If we don't turn onto the grass field, should we let the car pass over your heads? You talk like I want to cause trouble. Want to fight? You think I'm afraid of you? Higa, stop arguing. Akiko quickly interrupted the argument. Something happened. Hiroshi and Kaoru had gone. They haven't gone far yet. Quickly capture them. Leave this guy to me. Dango confirm. Akiko and the others chase after Hiroshi. A few more dusty winds blew past and swept away the last traces. The group of former detectives stopped in a deserted alley, silently looking at each other as if they understood something. From the beginning, everything was a part of Hiroshi's plan. He always insisted that Kaoru was dead and directly declared war on the dead world to distract us. On the surface, he still attended the weekend meetings, but in his mind, he secretly contemplated covering up and helping Kaoru. We were so careless. Akiko spoke up. But what happened just now? Tateyama asked. Hiroshi mixed the spores of the demon world's hallucinogenic mushrooms into the wind to poison us. This thing is colorless and odorless, so it's difficult to recognize. Maybe he did it while we were crossing the street. Akiko reasoned. The scene of a fox standing still on a street corner, silent and quiet like a tree, suddenly appeared. The Death Realm guide sighed softly in conclusion. While we were chasing the young driver, Hiroshi took Kaoru and ran away. There are no young boy driving. Dango's vicious tone rang out. The mess of chopped up plants was thrown to the ground, startling the group. The fire demon confirmed. The one who quarreled with Higa was just a human-shaped mistletoe. It moves and talks based on the operator's intentions. This trick tricked me, proving that old fox spent a lot of time and demonic energy. It's hard to find him now. That fox, in addition to scheming, also has a talent for hiding very well. If I found him, I would roast him on the spot. The remaining people looked at the black flame burning in Dango's hand and then lightly swallowed their saliva. Under heat beyond its limits, the human-shaped mistletoe gradually withered and turned into dust. The wind carries the ruins far away. The group of former detectives returned to the temple with the fact that they had temporarily lost a teammate. The fox demon was currently next to Kaoru and just a few steps away from Higa's house. Kaoru never said she was staying here, but she knew Hiroshi chose this place because Higa still didn't want to go home. No one will guess this place, at least for the next few days. I can go home, thank you. Kaoru said in a cold voice, regardless of how the person next to her felt. I won't go home until I know where you are. You only have 3 more days to live. During those 3 days, I will protect you. But I don't need it. Go away. Seeing the fox still standing motionless like a statue, Kaoru asserted. If you don't go, I'll go. The demon fox quickly hugged the demon rat as soon as she turned her back to him. We haven't broken up yet. Don't chase me away and be cold to me like that. The last time we met in the dark forest, you only asked me not to call your name. That means I still have the right to love you and protect you. And if you think it's over between us, I won't argue. Because I know I still have the right to do it again with you. Kaoru bowed her head, took a deep breath and tried to stop herself from crying. The day they said goodbye, she had hoped Hiroshi would say this. But the fox demon remained silent and let her go. Now, the mouth of the person she once loved said what she wanted, but it no longer made any sense. As someone who only knew the present, the demon rat no longer desired anything, including Hiroshi's love for her, even if their feelings for each other had never changed. With all her last ruthlessness, the demon rat decisively pushed the demon fox away, pointed towards the avenue, and loudly threatened, "What you need is only information about the enemy." I said what needed to be said. "We don't owe each other anything anymore. Go away. Get out of my sight. In this whole life, the person I hate the most is you. Don't let me see you again. Otherwise I will chop you into 100 pieces. Listen to my explanation. Shut up. Get out of my sight." Who is still making noise at this time? Ms. Onko's drunken drawl and the sound of broken glass interrupted the argument. From inside Higa's house, Ms. Onko eloquently walked out holding a half-broken empty wine bottle, glancing at the street in front of the house. Seeing the savior came, Kaoru quickly ran over, hid behind Higa's mother, trembling for help. "Miss Onko, help me. That guy followed me from the Baika area to here." "This guy?" Ms. Onko held a broken wine bottle, pointed at Hiroshi and asked loudly, startling the two demons. Kaoru quickly nodded, looking scared. Ms. Onko put down her weapon and walked over, looked at the fox for a moment, and burst into laughter. "Being followed by this guy is better than being followed by my useless son. At least he comes from a good family." A huge drop of sweat slowly crawled down the forehead of the couple who had just argued. Kaoru left sulkily. Hiroshi chatted with the homeowner a few words and then hurried back to a Yame restaurant. In the sky, several guides appeared and silently accompanied Hiroshi to the place where the demon fox was staying. They were completely disappointed when they realized there was nothing special about that place. In the spacious and quiet house, the fox cleaned up alone, then went into the room Kaoru used to live in, sitting and looking at every moment of his life through the photos on the wall. That pitiful lonely appearance was reflected in the monitoring mirror in the death realm. The king of hell frowned, looking puzzled. If he can save Kaoru, why does he have to be so sad? The only one who knows the reason is Shin, but he had already become a part of Kaoru. Akiko sighed softly, unable to hide her disappointment and self-blame. "If only I had come earlier. It means he became one part of Kaoru," the king of hell repeated, then suddenly slammed the table and asked in panic. "You mean Kaoru absorbed him and turned him into power?" Akiko widened her eyes and nodded vigorously. King of hell jumped off the desk, ran all the way into the archive room, constantly muttering, "Big trouble." Looking at the death realm operators hastily digging through documents, a very bad premonition arose that made Akiko not dare to look up and silently prayed that things would not get worse. The Styx River ferryman understood that she had made a serious and irreversible mistake. Just because of a momentary subjectivity because she believed Kaoru was a normal and honest demon, Akiko caused the little demons stationed in the information room to scramble to pick up the documents that were thrown on the floor. The rain of books became more and more intense. The little monsters were buried in a sea of documents and could only sit in one place, crying out of helplessness. At that moment, the rain of books stopped completely. "The king of hell has found what he was looking for. Akiko, come here." The king of hell signaled and quickly turned over a few yellowed pages of documents for his powerful assistant to see. It is written that there are two types of people with the ability to absorb souls. One is a very powerful monster, the other is a person possessing special abilities from another world. Kaoru's appearance and dragging the strange creatures to the dimensional path showed that the second theory was true. And the absorbed soul is actually just a part of the power that Kaoru separated for her own purposes. Ever since witnessing the scene of Shin becoming one with Kaoru, Hiroshi has been acting very strangely. He wasn't disgusted or scared, but more like he was contemplating something. After that, he himself set a trap for us and took Kaoru away. Akiko reminisced and then exclaimed, "Lord Pluto, has Kaoru ever absorbed Hiroshi and the others? You're just stupid. Kaoru only absorbs things created by her ability. Hiroshi is a demon of the demon world. He himself is completely independent, and has nothing to do with the abilities that Kaoru possesses, so it is impossible for him to be absorbed." The king of hell closed the file and spoke solemnly. "The urgent thing right now is to monitor and investigate the reason why Kaoru came here. If necessary, you must coordinate with FUSA and a group of former detectives to get her out of this world." "Yes." Seeing that Akiko had just turned away, the king of hell quickly warned, "Be carefully. Don't let Hiroshi find out. If he's mad, you're tired of working." The warning made Akiko scare. Memories of being poisoned with mushroom spores suddenly returned. If the fox demon replaces the hallucinogenic mushroom with a deadly poison, the Baca area will certainly become a ghost town with corpses scattered everywhere. The Styx River ferryman suddenly clutched her oar tightly, trying to put bad thoughts out of her mind. In human form, Hiroshi is an honest person. No matter how angry he is, the fox demon will not vent his anger on innocent people. Akiko thought to herself and immediately flew back to the human world. The king of hell put the book back in its place and looked down at the battlefield below his feet. The little demons buried more than half of their bodies in a sea of books looked up at the person in charge of the dead realm, then looked at each other and cried there. The king of hell stood on the stairs, looking down harshly. What are you looking? Clean up. We can capture Kaoru, even send her back to her old world, but Hiroshi will not let that happen until the day we know who is the final enemy. After hearing Akiko recount what the king of hell had said, Higa frankly admitted and raised a cup of hot tea to drink. Dango didn't say anything, and Tateyama scratched his head because he couldn't fully understand the implications of his teammates' words. Without Hiroshi, he was missing a powerful hand. No one explained in detail the information Akiko brought, and no one planned the missions entrusted by the dead world. Fuese just got the job not long ago, still lacked experience, and had difficulty integrating with the group of former detectives, so she always acted on her own. The dead realm had no choice but to ask Akiko and a group of former detectives for silence supported. Don't mention that traitor. From the beginning, he was on the enemy's side. Dango grumbled, his face showing anger. Dango, don't be rash. If anything happens to Kaoru, Hiroshi will take out his anger on innocent people. Akiko quickly stopped. Being roasted by demonic fire is an honor for that rat. Dango left the meeting with a spiteful attitude and went straight to a Yame restaurant. Without Kaoru, the fox demon does not come here as often as before. The bustling restaurant was now an empty and cold house. Except for the purple flower bush, the plants and trees in the garden all withered due to lack of caring hands. The fire demon snorted in his throat and went to Mrs. Yukio's house, but Hiroshi wasn't there either. In the fox demon's private room, the children were asleep on the bookshelf and unaware that someone was looking at them like they were enemies. Dango unsheathed his sword, the afternoon sunlight shining on the blade, reflecting the light from the bloody weapon onto Hyan's face. The little goblin woke up startled. Dango quickly left where he was standing. The miniature version of Hiroshi looked out at the gently swaying tree branch and sighed. A full day without his father by his side, the feeling of worry made him tired. He was completely unaware that his father was on duty on the roof of a high-rise building opposite Higa's house, silently observing the two women drinking there. Tell me, what is it about you being followed? Ms. Onko drank a full glass of wine, leaned back on the old cushion on the sofa, and slowly asked. He suddenly appeared and followed me. Kaoru bowed her head, hesitant because she couldn't make up another lie. Is that also the reason why you came back with empty-handed? Or did you marinate the red-haired guy with the wine I like to drink? I'm sorry. Let me buy you another bottle. Do not need. It's good that you're back. I can abstain from alcohol for a day. I just need you. Also, next time you go out, remember to look around carefully. That guy has feelings for you. If you're not careful, he'll drag you back to his house. Having finished speaking, Ms. Onko burst into laughter and staggered into her private room. At this point, Kaoru looked towards where Hiroshi was standing. There was no one on the roof of the building opposite. Was the feeling of being watched throughout the conversation created by the rat, or was the fox really there? Kaoru sighed softly and wondered, then looked at the hand that Hiroshi held tightly during the escape from the Baca area. There was a piece of paper folded into four. Inside was the message, I will not let anyone die. Trust me and let me protect you. Kaoru held the note tightly for a moment and then threw it into the recycle bin. The demon rat did not allow herself to believe in empty reassurances. Fate had written their ending to all die. How could the fox change everything on his own? A forced smile appeared along with warm tears. The little rat leaned her back against the cold wall, trying to create some happy memories, but the sight of four headless bodies lying still on the sand appeared, extinguishing all hope. Fear and despair broke into screams of terror. The sound of hurried footsteps and the constant knocking on the door forced Kaoru to see the despair that appeared on her face when she heard Ms. Onko calling. Kaoru, open the door. Open the door quickly. As soon as the door opened, seeing Kaoru greeting with a fake smile, Ms. Onko looked into the room and drunkenly asked, "Why did you scream so loudly?" "Because a cockroach ran by." Kaoru hesitated and then quickly asked about something else. "Are you out of wine yet? Let me buy more for you. A few bottles of wine are not as important as you. Letting you walk boldly on the street is like offering a goat to the tiger's mouth." Kaoru bewilderedly repeated the last words of Ms. Onko's words and then asked, "You mean the red-haired guy yesterday?" "Correct. I had a hunch that that pervert was still around somewhere. These days I have to be very alert. Very alert." The drunk woman answered, then held the wine bottle like she was holding a rifle, staggering around the house, constantly muttering. "Be alert to not give him a chance to catch you. What did Hiroshi do? Why do your mother call him a pervert?" Dango lowered the white cloth on his forehead to cover his evil eyes and looked at Higa. "That rat is at your house. And Hiroshi too. Do or don't is up to you. You encouraged me to go there and fight with him. It's rare to play against him. Go there and give it a good fight." These provocative words awakened the warlike blood. Higa's eyes sparkled as if he had found true passion. Being stared at by his teammates with eyes full of infatuation, Dango tried to avoid it. The face full of unspeakable emotions approached, closer and almost kissed Dango if the fire demon didn't have time to use his sword to push him away. Higa grinned with both eyes when being openly discriminated against by his teammates. "Don't be so tense. You've become so much stronger these days. Instead of looking for Hiroshi, I think it's better to fight you." The group's hardest-to-please black-shirted guy pointed at the former leader and eloquently declared war. "One day I will fight you again. Don't blame me if I kill you at that time." Higa nodded and praised. "You're good. Okay. Having been friends with you for so long, now I know how good you are." The discriminatory gazes in the temple courtyard simultaneously focused on Higa. They looked at each other and whispered, "I didn't expect Higa to be so omnivorous. He hides his gender so well. Looking at him fighting, no one would think he wasn't a real man." Some teasing words reached Higa's ears. The ball of spiritual energy immediately appeared, lighting up a corner of the yard. The former Death Realm detective shouted threateningly, "Shut up, shut up. I'll kill you all." Dango looked at the chaotic chase scene in the yard, nonchalantly curled his lips and quickly went somewhere else. The teasing laughter gradually subsided and then fell into silence. On the high branches of the trees, the figure of the fire demon was like a black streak moving quickly towards the dark horizon. Without the fox demon, Dango no longer wanted to stay in the human world. He was no longer a detective in the dead world, so he has no obligation to guide new people, especially someone like Fuese who at first glance knows that it is difficult to integrate. Retreating to the demon world to rest and hanging around Konami is a safe choice, although a bit boring. But for Konami, seeing her trusted bodyguard return after a period of wandering in the human world, a hint of secret joy appeared in her eyes. The group of former Death Realm detectives temporarily disbanded after Hiroshi and Dango's unscheduled separation. Higa spent all his time learning to cook and silently protecting Chiharu. The vast Niran temple became even quieter when Hina was alone, struggling to take care of things inside and out. Seen from a distance, Hina's silhouette looks like a small blue dot moving slowly across the large yard. Laughter echoed from above, awakening an uneasy feeling. Eyes filled with sadness looked up at the sky and slowly closed as they watched the turbulent space expand slightly. Ordinary people couldn't see it, but for a demon like Hina, she clearly saw swarms of low-level demons flying out of the dark door, rushing straight towards the temple. They hit the barrier and disappeared as the purifying light flared up. The ghost insects that followed temporarily ignored the lone delicious prey and entered the city in droves. Hina took out her phone and called Tateyama, hastily announcing, "Mr. Tateyama, a creature from a black hole is approaching Tokyo. They escaped from dimensional space." The startled tone interrupted Hina's words. Tateyama asked immediately, "Are you okay? Don't leave the temple on your own." I'll tell Higa. We will deal with them. Don't leave the barrier. Other swarms of demon insects attack the barrier. The burst of light blinded Hina. A patch of warm light slowly fell and burned in the sky. Hina clutched the light blue fabric tightly, not daring to take her eyes off the destroyed barrier. Master Niran was dead. Akiko and the group of former detectives were not here. Who would patch this hole? The smell of death and the sight of demons gathering into large black clouds in the sky caught Higa's eyes. He still pretended to knead the dough and asked Mr. Shiratori. This morning, I saw Chiharu made up so beautiful. Where did she go? Some of her classmates invited her to go to Shibuya. Pausing for a moment, the owner of Shiratori Eatery looked up at the clock and wondered. Why did she come home so late this time? Higa intended to reassure his future father-in-law, but what he was about to say was interrupted by the phone ringing. Tadayama was calling. As soon as Higa turned on the phone, his teammates shouted into the phone, "Where are you? It's a big trouble. Go to Niran Temple now. I'm terrible sorry, but I have to go urgently. I'll come back later." As soon as Higa opened the door, a group of ghost insects rushed in and were burned by the aura. Hearing the hesitant sounds of the witness standing behind him, Higa quickly moved behind his father-in-law, knocked him out, then quickly contacted Akiko. Akiko, please go to Shiratori Eatery to delete Chiharu's father's memories. I accidentally used my spiritual energy in front of him. Higa, you call Dango and Hiroshi to come to the dimensional path for me. This place is in danger now. The former Death Realm detective rushed into the street. What caught his eye was the sight of everyone surrounded by ghosts. They land on the shoulder, in the hair and then sink into the victim. Those possessed by ghosts screamed and clawed at the living. Blood flowed all over the road. Streams of refugees rushed to board police cars. Hospitals, schools and any safe place are full of people. They looked out, uneasy and afraid. Even when they realize that their relatives are there, they do not dare to leave the shelter because they do not know whether their relatives are still human or not. Higa immediately called Enki, asking the current king of the demon world for help. Less than 10 seconds later, Hiroshi and Dango were in the city as Enki's requestion. Hiroshi used herbs to anesthetize the insane. Dango used demon world fire to clear away the insects occupying the Tokyo sky and then rushed to Niran Temple. The extremely cold air surrounding the temple made Higa and the fire demon shiver. Hina sat in front of the temple, radiating cold air, causing the demons that invaded the temple to freeze, fall and break. Hina was panting from fatigue. Seeing the savior coming, she happily stood up and then collapsed. Dango quickly rushed over to help Hina up. Losing too much demonic energy because of fighting for a long time, she was so weak now. As for the barrier that Higa just patched up, no one knew how long it will last. This place has no one. Dango mumbled, clearly annoyed. Don't worry about me. Mr. Tadayama will be here soon. Akiko told me to send you guys to the dimensional road right away. Things are more urgent there. Hina tried to reassure. This barrier helps me hold on for a while. When it broke, I recovered my strength. Then I will continue to fight. Tadayama is here. You don't have to fight. The eloquent statement outside the gate attracted all attention. Tadayama held his aura sword and boldly entered. Take care of her carefully. Dango reluctantly asked for help and did not forget to threaten with demon world fire. If something happens to her, I will ask you for your crime. Protecting Hina is my honor and responsibility. Dango glanced sideways at his teammate with a shameful face and then went with the remaining 2 people to the dimensional space. The spell created by Kaoru lost its effect. It is like a piece of red cloth fluttering on the road connecting the worlds. Akiko and the Death Realm investigator are surrounded by demons. They were almost exhausted after a long time of fighting but still had to persevere for the task of protecting the human world. Hiroshi continued to use herbs to distract the demons. The low-level demons flew into the white smoke, changed direction and disappeared into the dark, unknown space. Higa helps the task force build another magic net. The difficulties temporarily passed. Higa turned to Hiroshi and bluntly criticized. At this rate, you still protect that rat. You mean this was caused by Kaoru? Akiko exclaimed as if she couldn't believe the truth. The last time she met the rat demon, even though Shin volunteered to become the energy for her to continue living, the rat demon's power was still weaker than a normal person. Calling a large number of low-level demons and demons to the human world requires strong demonic power. This was really too much for Kaoru. The protective arguments that had just appeared in Akiko's mind were destroyed by Higa's nod and tough attitude. Faced with an indignant attitude and eyes that seemed to burn everything into ashes, Hiroshi still maintained his inherent steadfastness. Explaining to an angry person is like adding fuel to the fire. And baseless words make listeners even more angry. The fox demon turned and left but still did not forget to send a message. I will find a way to lock down the low-level demons in their world. Take advantage of this time. You guys go back to the human world and do what you need to do. Higa quickly called out and chased after him, grabbing Hiroshi's collar. The fox looked at his teammates with challenging and provocative eyes. You want to fight me again right here? Receiving no response, the fox decisively pushed down his teammate's hand and affirmed, now we are no longer on the same front line. I don't mind. After destroying the trash behind the magic net, I will fight you guys again. One by one. Dango responded with a belligerent smile. The fire demon always looks forward to this day and is ready to rematch with a worthy opponent. Higa angrily punched his fist on the dark road below his feet. He didn't expect the group of former detectives had this day. An unscheduled separation and a meaningless promise. Friends became enemy because a demon girl came from otherworld. Higa, Chiharu's call echoed in his mind. Mr. Shiratori's message suddenly returned. Chiharu and her friends went to Shibuya and still haven't returned. Higa's heart suddenly ached. As soon as he stood up, the image of Chiharu with her back turned to him, nonchalantly walking into an unknown space filled with fog faded and disappeared completely. Akiko, Dango, I leave this place to you two. I have to go to Shibuya to find Chiharu. Higa said immediately. The other two nodded, and the former Death Realm detective quickly left the dimensional road. Higa arrived at Shibuya when it was late afternoon. Dark red sunset covers the roofs of high-rise buildings. He asked everywhere, even took pictures of Chiharu to show passers-by, but no one knew where Chiharu had gone. Knowing he couldn't rely on people who only cared for themselves, Higa turned into a deserted alley and used his aura to probe for Chiharu's traces. For those who are still alive, there will definitely be no results. But when the soul leaves the body, the spirit will immediately recognize it. Higa didn't expect that, but his aura betrayed what he was hoping for. Chiharu's soul is wandering on a deserted beach. It seems that Chiharu still doesn't know she's dead and is waiting for Higa to come pick her up. That image caught Higa's eyes when he arrived. Chiharu turned her head to look at him and then disappeared as the last rays of sunlight shone in. On the beach, only Chiharu's body and an old man wearing glasses remained. Even though he covered half his face with a mask, he couldn't hide the satisfaction in his eyes. Higa shouted and rushed at the villain. He calmly waved his hand, knocking down the lunatic. As soon as Higa's body was placed next to Chiharu, Hiroshi and Dango appeared after the sand wind. The sudden absence of a familiar aura pulled them into a life and death battle. And the once resilient warriors of the dead world were also killed in the blink of an eye with the same attack. 4 bodies lay still on the red sand. The color of blood or sunset was unknown, abandoned by the mysterious murderer. Only Akiko's tears on the dimensional road silently sent them off. The River Styx ferryman quickly wiped away her tears, but it only caused more tears to flow. Are you all leaving? Everyone promised not to leave me. Akiko knelt down, ignoring the low-level demons surrounding her. One of them was attracted by the pain, came closer, landed on Akiko's hair and disappeared. The goddess of death glanced at the white smoke formed by fleeting life and smiled bitterly. Besides the former detective association, no one can be friends with her. People view death as a scary thing and always try to avoid it, trying to prolong life as long as possible. No one was happy to see Akiko, except the former detectives who had been with her for the past 8 years. But when her teammates died, she cannot see off them. The dimensional road was gradually filled with ghosts. They surrounded Akiko, releasing sparkling dust into the wind. Memories were called back. Once again, Akiko remembered the days when she had her friends by her side. She accompanied them on difficult missions, cheered for them in competitions in the demon world, and treated them. They were happy. She smiled. They were sad. She cried. She truly became part of the group of former detectives and never wanted to leave them even when they no longer worked for the dead world. Pain attracted the demons, causing them to came more. The poisonous pollen from their wings filled the image of death's half. The pain was awakened by memories. Akiko looked at the students waiting to take her life, gathered all her anger and pain and shouted, "What are you guys fighting for?" Negative energy wiped out evil insects. Light returns to the dimensional path. Akiko urgently ran to the beginning of the street, but that place was blocked by an invisible net. The Death Realm investors gathered in front of the magic net. They joined forces to destroy it, but that invisible wall did not budge one bit. Akiko frantically slapped her hands on the magic net as she saw the souls of the former detectives slowly passing by on the other side. "Please, don't go. Wait for me," the goddess of death pleaded and shouted each person's name. "Higa, Dango, Hiroshi, wait for me." "Looks like we're not the only ones," a green-faced demon with a huge horn in his forehead commented. He looked away from the well that reflected the situation in the human world, looked helplessly at the invisible border that was imprisoning him and his companions for a long time. "Whether you know it or not, you have to stay quiet. Lord Konami will get mad and tear us apart," another demon warned. The green-faced Yukai shivered, looking at Konami with eyes full of fear. But Konami didn't pay attention to that. She was putting all her strength into destroying the barrier surrounding the flying castle. From the moment she felt Dango's demonic aura suddenly disappear, Konami felt like she had lost her mind. She stood in front of the barrier, using all her inherent strength to destroy it. However, the magic net was only slightly scratched. Those traces quickly faded. Everything returned to normal, even more solid than before. The souls of former detectives quietly entered the light-filled path. Higa gradually disappeared. Dango followed him. Hiroshi slowly approached. The light made the fox's body gradually fade. He took another step. The front half of his body almost turned into smoke. "Stop it!" Kaoru screamed loudly and woke up. The nightmare about the departure of the group of former detectives awakens the rat demon. She quickly got out of bed and rushed out. Under the blood-red sunset, the rat's silhouette gradually grew smaller and then disappeared as the deadly color faded. 4 bodies on the beach caught Kaoru's eye. They had been dead for a long time, their bodies were cold and their blood had stopped flowing. Eyes full of hatred opened wide as if wanting to engrave the image of the person who killed them into their minds. No matter how hard she tried, Kaoru couldn't help them truly rest in peace. She forced a helpless smile and tears just flowed from the corners of her eyes. "Now isn't the time to be weak." Someone's voice rang in her ears. Tadayama stepped forward and admitted. "This is the second time I have seen Higa die in front of me, and I couldn't do anything. I don't know what misunderstanding you had with Dango and Higa, but you heartbroken like that, I knew I had to do something to help you. Please help me take them back to Niran Temple." "What about you?" "I have to go to Mrs. Yukio's house." "Hurry up. If the soul leaves the body for more than 24 hours, it will lose its chance to be revived." Tadayama was half convinced but still reluctant to comply with the request. Under the red sunset, the image of a lone boy trying to carry 4 bodies to the temple a distance from the beach suddenly became small and lonely. No one knew that, only the lonely sound of seabirds rang out from time to time as if to cheer for that resilient person. Their father's death awakens Haruka and Hyan. The children imps sat up, staring at the setting sun but saw nothing there. Hyan wiped his younger sister's tears and pointed towards the door. As for himself, he ran towards the secret room, struggled to open the door and took out the precious medicine bottle. Haruka suddenly exclaimed. The closed door was pushed aside. Mrs. Yukio came in with a cleaning cloth and a bucket of water, and was about to clean up when she saw Hyan pretending to be a stuffed animal sitting on the bookshelf. She lifted up the boy made from plants, smiled softly and commented. "My child is really funny." Where can he find a doll just like him to tease me? Then she put Hyan back in his place, looking at the main road behind the glass window. Dusk has ended, the flow of people passing by has thinned out, but her son has not returned home yet. Normally at this time, the demon fox would come home and help her prepare dinner. Why was she waiting so long and seeing nothing but tears? A mother's premonition makes her chest ache. She sighed softly and quietly took the cleaning tools out because she didn't want to lose the rare traces that showed her child had ever existed. Just waiting for that moment, Hyan opened the secret door and pulled out the precious medicine bottle. Haruka quickly opened the window, still kept her eyes on the wooden door that had just closed tightly. Seeing nothing strange, they quickly brought the medicine and ran to find their mother. Sensing the presence of the precious potion, demons and low-level monsters simultaneously attacked the two demons. Haruka hugged the medicine bottle and ran away. The low-level monsters quickly chased after her. A stone on the road blocked Haruka's foot, caused Haruka to fall. The medicine bottle flew away and broke. A white smoke rose up, covering a long stretch of road. Haruka, Hyan, come here, I'll show you something. The image of the demon fox taking two identical medicine bottles out of the secret compartment flashed back to her mind. Haruka closed her eyes, as if she saw her father right on this deadly road, unaware that her hands and feet were being melted by toxic smoke. I put 2 bottles of medicine here. One bottle is an elixir of life, has a sweet scent, and the medicinal liquid is also thicker than the other bottle. It belongs to your mother. When I passed away, you two divided it, each keeping a bottle. When you're in danger, break the liquid medicine bottle and quickly leave the scene. Haruka forced a smile, wanting to run, but it's too late. Now her body has melted into water. It gradually shrinks and turns into a tiny seed, gradually sinking into the deadly medicinal liquid. High above, demons and low-level demons also dissolved into mist. Hyan continued to run away with tears. Behind he was another group of low-level demons. No amount of strength could maintain a safe distance. In just a blink of an eye, Hyan was surrounded by them. It hugged the medicine bottle tightly to its body and screamed when it felt the siege tightening. A line of light passed by, swept away the miscellaneous monsters. Hyan opened his eyes and exclaimed happily when he saw Kaoru standing in front of him. Where is Haruka? Aren't you two going together? Kaoru picked up the kid who looked exactly like Hiroshi, wondering. Seeing the child's tearful face, the rat rubbed its head and sighed. Everything was caused by her. She should not have existed in this world for so long. Kaoru hid her last child in her pocket and immediately returned to Niran Temple. Hina and Tateyama was waiting there. The wounds on the bodies were all healed. They looked like they were fast asleep and unaware of the final separation that was about to happen. To bring them back to life, I must perform a secret and important ritual. Can you two go out to cover? Don't let the demons get into this place. But secretly reviving someone without the permission of the dead is a serious crime, you know. If they blame you, then I bear it all. As long as they live, I will do anything. Hurry up, we don't have much time left. Tateyama and Hina reluctantly followed. Kaoru carefully closed the door to the body room and took the medicine bottle and Hyan out of her pocket. Seeing her child's pleading eyes, Kaoru could only force a smile, give him a goodbye kiss, and then used some spiritual energy to make the little goblin unconscious. The rat demon carefully opened the lid of the precious medicine bottle, dripped blood into it, and let the 4 bodies drink the medicine. The bodies of the dead glowed slightly. The wandering souls were called back by the mind and quickly flew into the body. The unusually strong stream of spiritual energy emanating from the tea room stimulated curiosity, causing Tateyama to open the door to look, and someone knocked him unconscious. Hina was also knocked unconscious with the same move. When they woke up, they found themselves lying in a conference room, surrounded by empty wine bottles thrown everywhere. At the main door, Ms. Onko held another bottle of wine and shook it gently, cursing and complaining. You naughty bunch. After drinking all the wine in the temple, you guys borrowed my wine. The drunk people sat up and looked at each other, bewildered and not understanding anything. Hiroshi rubbed his temples, trying to regain some sense after his headache, and asked. I'm sorry, but I don't remember what we drank for. You guys drank to celebrate my son successfully proposing to his girlfriend. The ring is already on, the wine is gone, and you still pretend not to know. If I were your mother, I would punch each of you a few times. Why would anyone get punched to celebrate their wedding day? Tateyama joked. The whole group laughed, including Ms. Onko. But the joy could not overcome the little doubt that arose in Hiroshi's heart. The fox demon still pretended to laugh even though he still felt empty. The fun ended when night fell. The fox demon walked alone on a long, deserted road. The more he think, the more he get unforeseen headaches. The fox chose to give up and go home. Mrs. Yukio's cry and happy hug surprised the fox. The mischievous younger brother let out a reprimand when the late-night reunion scene ended. You are so naughty. You taught me not to hang around, but you went out until late at night. Mom is so worried about you that her eyes are swollen with tears. Sorry Mom and you. The younger brother winked, deliberately teasing. Or did you invite her to go somewhere and have so much fun that you forgot how to get home? A girl, from the time I left until the time I returned, I was alone. So you two quarreled. You're imagining too much. The fox teased his younger brother and returned to his room. The image of a lonely purple flower among blooming cherry branches catches his eyes, reminding of a distant memories. Someone once gave this flower to him. But when he was going to see that person's face clearly, the memory shattered like a glass that was thrown violently to the ground. The pain blocked and erased all the most important images in the old memory stream. Hiroshi held his head, clenched his teeth, trying to stop the scream of pain from escaping his mouth. He lay down on the bed, tossed and turned for a while, then fell asleep. Dreams of past lives mixed with memories of teammates and then faded away. The emerald eyes flashed with indignation. Clearly someone was playing tricks on his memories. That's why the more he tried to remember, the faster all the data in his head fades. Those images were reflected in the round mirror in Akiko's hand. The rat demon suppressed the pain and forced a smile. Having lost the blood of immortality, she was like a ghost waiting for her thoughts to decline and pass away. Her body gradually became transparent and dissolved into countless light dust particles, flying towards the dark dimensional road. Lord Pluto quietly appeared in a dark corner, neither stepping forward nor speaking. Kaoru turned her head towards the person who had just arrived and forced a smile. Lord Pluto, are you here to arrest me? You don't belong to this world. Forcing you to confess is so meaningless. So you came to see me off. What an honor. Should I call Hiroshi here? You only had 20 more hours left in this state. You really didn't want to see Hiroshi again. This is better. Forgetting is a favor. How can there be such a cruel principle? Akiko placed the mirror to observe the human world in Lord Pluto's hands, and spoke up full of resentment. Hiroshi is not a heartless person. Because you don't want to meet him. Let me call him over. As soon as she finished speaking, Akiko flew out of the tunnel connecting the worlds and rushed to Hiroshi's house. Something from the opposite direction hit her, causing them both to fall to the ground. Akiko was about to reprimand it, but her anger was dissipated by Hyan's adorable face. Seeing the little demon standing up unsteadily, wanting to fly but not having enough strength to fly away, Death caught the little demon and asked in a gentle voice. Where do you want to go? Hyan pointed towards Mrs. Yukio's house, suddenly bursting into tears. In his mind, only the image of his father remains, while the image of his mother has completely faded. It feels the pain of separation but does not understand who was about to leave this life. Knowing that Hyan and he had the same destination, Akiko took it with her and stopped in front of the fox demon's bedroom window. The familiar call forced Hiroshi to postpone work and open the door to welcome his lost child. Seeing that his father was still alive, Hyan fell into his father's arms and cried. He suddenly looked towards the vase of flowers on the desk, intending to say something, but his headache erased the images that had just returned to his mind. Do you still want to meet her? Akiko spoke up. If you want, I will take you away right now. She. You mean who? Kaoru. Akiko angrily emphasized that name again but only saw the bewildered expression of the demon fox. I really don't understand who you want to talk about. Hyan is not feeling well. I have to treat him first. Please excuse me. The window is closed again. Akiko shook her head slightly even though she was still angry at the fox's heartless nature. The goddess of death returned to the dimensional road, hiding the blame in her heart. Kaoru left her seat. The rat demon approached the magical net separating her homeland and the world of the person she loved, touching the mesh with her hand. Unlike demons, the net does not reject a weak soul like her. Her hand passed through the magic net and then retracted. Her eyes filled with sadness suddenly became distant. The rat demon just stood there as if waiting for something very far away. The two hunters guarding the magic net looked at Kaoru with concern. They didn't want to make difficult for a dying soul. But if Kaoru kept leaving the chimpanzee here, she will forever lose her chance to be a human being where she truly belongs. A female hunter stepped forward and tried to open the magic net for Kaoru to choose for herself. Kaoru shook her head slightly and stepped back. Behind the rat demon, the places she passed were igniting red flames. She is struggling with the idea in her mind. Lord Pluto explained. Half of her wanted to leave, but it also wanted to stay, so she couldn't escape. Obviously she wanted to see Hiroshi again. Why did she choose this cruel way? That is the hidden principle of people possessing special abilities in the world she lived in. When they come to a world created by others, they are not allowed to leave any traces, including memories. To get here, she had to trade her life and abilities to survive for a short time and then silently pass away in pain. Lord Pluto sighed softly. Poor her. When it comes to this, we can't help. The female hunter understood, so she closed her magic net and returned to her guard position. Outside on Dimensional Road, it was just dawn and Hiroshi was standing in front of the Ayame restaurant. Faded memories remind of a girl's body lying in a pool of blood, right in this restaurant. It was he who created this barrier to protect that person. But he couldn't remember that person's face. All that can be exchanged for the headaches were a gentle smile and a purple flower. The fox hesitated for a moment then hurried to the company and continued an adult's life. My biggest mistake was existing in this world. I chose to leave because I no longer had a purpose to live, and also because no one needed me anymore. I will leave my useless life to the people I love, even if they don't exist in the same world as me. Pale pink lips moved slightly. The thick mist brought by the wind obscured the figure of the person who had just spoken. When the fog cleared, that person had gone a very long way. Hiroshi quickly chased after the girl in his dream, hugging that small body. Cold hands grabbed the fox's hand, gently removed his warm chains surrounding her, but still trying to hold on for a while longer. A little warmth from a short kiss could not ease the pain of separation rising in his heart. Hiroshi held that mysterious girl, but his hands could only hold cold mist. And the fire burned the image before his eyes to ashes. Hiroshi woke up and put his head on the files on the table. It's that nightmare again. It's just a dream, but it brings tears to the fox's eyes in reality. The only thing he remembers is the pain of separation, the feeling of someone who can only watch the person he loves gradually leave without being able to do anything. Are you unwell? Or did I come at the wrong time? Mrs. Yukio's gentle, caring question soothed the painful echoes of the nightmare. Hiroshi raised his head, tried to smile as naturally as possible and replied, I was just having dreams. Don't worry about me. What makes you cry in your dreams is the thing you cherish and regret the most. If it's a person, it's definitely the person you love the most. Mrs. Yukio explained and placed the lunchbox on her son's desk. No matter what the reason is, don't neglect yourself and forget those who love you in the present. Hiroshi happily nodded and began to enjoy his lunch. Outside the door, a group of female employees bowed to Mrs. Yukio and then lurked, peeking at her son. No one knew that scene had been seen by Mrs. Yukio. The fox demon's mother smiled kindly when she learned that her son was a lady killer like her departed husband. That scene was reflected in the well near the flying castle, and made Dango feel uncomfortable. It's good to forget everything. This will make it easier to start a new life. Konami's cold tone froze the hard-to-name emotions in Dango's heart. The fire demon glanced at the demon who liked to say things contrary to her thoughts, questioned with a mischievous smile, "So why are you helping me restore my memories? It's fine for you to live with an empty head. Your hatred or gratitude isn't related to me. I just want to use those sealed memories as something to play in my free time." Irremissible. Dango quickly left the flying castle, ignoring Konami's regretful eyes. Having been together for 8 years, Konami clearly understood who those empty words were aimed at. In the past, Dango tried his best to prevent Hiroshi from loving Kaoru because he had already guessed the painful ending between them. The fire demon hated Kaoru because the rat demon caused his closest comrade to change. But when he realized that Kaoru came to this world to save the group of former detectives, the fire demon could not forgive his extreme selfish nature. He returned to the human world to find a way to correct his mistakes, even though he knew what he was about to do was meaningless. Wouldn't it be better to just let her go like that? Making them meet won't save anything. The demon with horns on his forehead honestly admitted. "You heartless guy. Why scold me?" The horned monster grabbed the shoulder of the monster standing next to him, shook him violently and screamed in agony. "I have always been loyal to Lord Konami for a long time, and have never betrayed her. Suddenly accusing me like that, what are your plans?" The person whose shoulders were shaken until he couldn't breathe pointed at the well and weakly explained, "The well says I didn't." The horned monster hesitantly let go of his friend and looked into the well. His face turned pale when he saw Higa staggered due to the punch of a drunk woman. The former detective of the dead world fell on the cupboard, causing the porcelain behind the half-closed door to crash and break. Higa stood in the middle of the battlefield he had unintentionally caused, calmly wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and silently waited for the coming wrath. Ms. Onko stepped on the broken porcelain, grabbed her son's collar, gritted her teeth and cursed. "You and your friends invited each other to drink alcohol, forcing her to travel from Niran Temple to Tokyo to ask me for bottles of alcohol. How dare you say you don't know who she is? You torture my daughter like that without knowing her. Where is my daughter now? Where did you hide her? Old hag, you only have this son. You don't have any daughters." Higa was punched again. He bowed his head, the indignant squeaking sound of his teeth grinding together softly rang out. If the person in front of him was not his mother, he would fight back immediately. Higa's stubborn and annoying attitude caused him to receive another slap. His memories about Ms. Onko's mysterious daughter came flooding back one after another along with the angry words of a drunk. "Kaoru is my daughter. She saved me and took care of me during the days when you hung out with your friends. Without she, you will never see me again." Then Ms. Onko pointed towards the main door and shouted loudly, "Why are you still standing there? Hurry up. Find my child for me." "Okay, I will go. I'll find your child for you. She is your child, and I am not. You bad mother." Ms. Onko collapsed like a banana tree cut down, then smiled crookedly when she heard her son's footsteps fading towards the door. She staggered to the liquor cabinet and grabbed a bottle of wine. Her shaking shoulders caused the bottle of wine in her hand to waver. The wine spilled on her lips, face, and drenched her collar. She placed the useless thing firmly on the table, trying to hold it tightly. However, no matter how hard Ms. Onko tried, the layer of water in that glass bottle still moved like waves of intense emotions in her heart. Ms. Onko shouted angrily and threw the wine bottle into the corner of the wall. Broken wine bottle. The strong smell of alcohol permeated the living room. Ms. Onko hung her head again, cried like a child, and didn't know that Higa had soon forgotten her harsh words. After the recent rain of blows, he realized he had a more important task than meaningless anger. Two figures moving quickly across the rooftops coincidentally met each other. Dango glanced at Higa, smiling mischievously. The fire demon saw the change in his teammate's eyes. Higa held Dango's shoulder, moving and asking with a meaningful smile. "Dango, what are you doing here?" "Find the fox named Hiroshi. Follow me. I know where he is." "Is your memories back?" "That black magic thing succumbed to my mother's punch. It's a long story. I'll tell it later when I have a chance." They rushed across the buildings and stopped in front of where Hiroshi was discussing a contract with a new partner. The sudden appearance of his teammates interrupted the meaningless negotiations. The fox left Fusa behind to talk to the guests and went out to find his teammates. Just arriving at a hidden corner in the garden behind the restaurant, the demon fox was grabbed by Higa's collar, punched hard and scolded. "Now you're still thinking about meaningless money. Why didn't you tell me Kaoru came here to save us? Now she's about to die, you're still sitting here discussing the contract. Hiroshi looked at his teammates. His face showed no emotion. The demon fox raised his hand to wipe the blood that had just flowed from the place where he was beaten. The wound disappeared very quickly. The response to the extremely indignant attitude from his teammates was an indifferent calmness and the affirmation. I don't understand what you guys want to say. Today's contract is very important. I will talk to you guys later. The person who gave up her life to save you isn't as good as that mess of papers full of words. Kaoru misunderstood you. The demon fox looked straight into Higa's eyes, coldly emphasizing each word. I don't know anyone named Kaoru in my life. Seeing that the former team leader was about to punch that random and meaningless person again, Dango quickly stopped him. Higa suppressed his anger and went with the fire demon to the dimensional road. Behind them, Hiroshi silently watched and then quietly returned to where his partner was waiting. The contract was signed, the female partner stood up, shook hands with Fuese and Hiroshi and happily left. When it was time to leave the restaurant, the female detective from Death turned to Hiroshi and asked in a voice as light as a breeze. You don't regret it, do you? Never. Hiroshi looked up at the starry night sky and hurriedly went home. He took Hyan out of his pocket, took off his vest and smiling slightly. This little demon followed him all day, but now he was sleeping soundly because he was so tired. The lovely sleeping face silently invited the fox to tease. Unconsciously, he gently touched Hyan's face and smiled when he saw the little elf holding his finger, rubbing his face on it. Some faded memories came rushing back. The old days, at a Yame restaurant. Besides Hyan, there was also Haruka. The kids often hugged each other and fell asleep, unaware that the fox and another person were teasing them. Hiroshi saw that girl's gentle smile again. A severe headache came. The fox demon was out of control. He grabbed the purple flower in the vase, crumpled it and threw it in the trash. Hyan woke up startled. He quickly stopped it when he saw his father approaching the withered souvenir. Seeing the little goblin stretch a thread-like hemp rope to threaten him, Hiroshi was both amused and sympathetic. He picked up the small boy like a doll and gently reassured him. Okay, I won't bully that flower anymore. Don't be angry with me. Hyan jumped out of his father's arms, brought the flower along with its tattered petals and placed it on the table. He looked up at his father and pointed to the destroyed souvenir. It moved aside and carefully observed the hand filled with magic that was healing the faded flower. The wounds on the petals slowly fade. The emerald eyes slowly closed. A headache suddenly came. Unconsciously, the fox held the flower tightly. Hyan cried out and struggled with all his strength before the withered souvenir was ruined again. Hyan and the purple flower were thrown into the trash. Hiroshi held his head, trying not to watch the scene of Hyan trying to pull Kaoru's memento out of the scraps of paper. The more he avoided, the more intense the pain became. For a moment, the demon fox's mind became as blank as Kaoru's emotions in her last moments of life. No matter how many people came to see her off, she still felt lonely. The rat demon stood in front of the magic net without bothering to turn around. She knew that if she saw them, she wouldn't be able to leave. The more entanglements there were, the more painful death became. He didn't really come. Yet people praise the fox as a faithful animal. Akiko softly reprimanded. She doesn't have much longer to live. Coming just once. Is it that hard to say goodbye with a hug? No one understands what that old fox is thinking. But he certainly has his own reasons for doing so. Dango defended. I have to go. Kaoru spoke up. Don't make me miss this place too much. If anyone meets him, tell him not to miss someone like me. There's no use missing me. Forget it to be at ease. Heartless. Hiroshi's reproach made the rat stop walking. But when she realized that there was not a single sound behind her to indicate that the fox had just arrived, Kaoru laughed at herself. Because she miss him so much, she create illusions to deceive herself. In the end, only the rat tormented herself with her unfinished love. Behind Kaoru, the fire burned bright red, forming a wall as high as an adult's shoulders. Behind the firewall, Dango, Higa, Tateyama, Hina, Akiko and Lord Pluto all looked at that lonely figure with sorrowful eyes. They understood that on the surface, the rat demon said there was no need for anyone to see her off, but in Kaoru's heart, she longed to hear Hiroshi's voice one more time. That is also the reason why she lingers at the intersection of her homeland and the world that is not for her. The deeper the contradiction in her heart, the bigger the fire surrounding her burned. In the blink of an eye, the only thing left was her head and blue hair. The sound of footsteps stepping on the gravel road attracted everyone's attention. Hiroshi has arrived. The demon fox stood a short distance from his teammate's position, looked towards where the fire was burning. Everyone there, except Dango, was happy to see the fox came closer to Kaoru. You really don't need me. Whether I need it or not, this place has no place for me. Kaoru forced a smile, looking up at the deep night sky above her head. Why are you coming here? I'm here to pick you up. Let's go home together. Kaoru bowed her head, watched as the tears that had just fallen disappeared, and said softly, I have nowhere else to go. There is still a world behind you. As long as you come back, that place will be your home. I will not forgive you in my entire life. I left my homeland and my life to save you, and you used poison to kill me. I sealed your memories with my life, and you destroy it at all costs. From beginning to end, you just wanted me to die, wanted me to leave this place as quickly as possible. You thought I would believe you, believe in what you said. I have no life left now. I gave you my immortal blood, so there's nothing left for you to take advantage. Let me leave this place. Don't look for me anymore. I just want to leave peacefully. The magic net opened again. Winds came from somewhere else, pushing fire and heat toward the survivors. Kaoru slowly walked forward. After all this time of waiting, the last bit of strength was gone. The demon rat's body gradually dissolved into sparkling strips of light dust, flying into the night sky. Hiroshi quickly chased after her but was stopped by the Dead World investigators. High-level monsters like him were only allowed to travel between the human world and the demon world, and were absolutely not allowed to step into another world even one step. He called Kaoru's name, but the sound was blocked by invisible magic, and the impressions of the name he wanted to call were erased. Hiroshi hurriedly stepped forward. The wind pushed the flames surrounding Kaoru towards him. The scorching heat woke up Hyan, who was sleeping soundly from the sedative herbs. The fire awakened the pain of separation and then broke into a scream. Hearing her child calling her, Kaoru quickly turned her head. The red flame flared up fiercely and obscured the last image of the rat demon. When the fire dissipated, the place where Kaoru was standing was just an empty land. There was no trace that Kaoru had ever been there. Hiroshi collapsed on his knees in a daze. Hina covered her face and burst into tears. Hyan jumped out of his father's coat pocket, ran to where his mother used to stand, frantically searched but found nothing. He quickly returned to his father, pulled his father's hair, forcing him to find his mother. Hiroshi was still kneeling there, as silent as a statue. It's a bit early to despair. Dango reminded. All attention turned to the fire demon and burst into joy at the reunion. He stood next to a rotten tree trunk, brushing fire ashes from his clothes. The bit of human world fire didn't do too much damage to his black outfit. And so was the rat demon. Dango gave way to Hiroshi and turned away, pretended not to notice them. Hiroshi happily hugged Kaoru and then was stunned when he realized he couldn't touch the rat demon like before. The rat demon gently shook her head, begged the fox demon not to use his emotions to hold her. She had never imagined Hiroshi's face when he shed tears. And when she saw the fox cry, her pain was enduring became even greater. You're so unlike the Hiroshi I used to know. You should be happy, because when I die here, at this moment, I won't return to that place. No one will hurt me, laugh at me or despise me. I don't have to force myself into the rules created by society there anymore. Kaoru smiled, reached out to Hiroshi. From the tunnel connecting the worlds, a wind rushed in, surrounding Kaoru. The unscheduled fire flared up again and burned her last imagination. When the fire died down, the place where Kaoru was sitting remained intact as if nothing had ever happened. Only the rat demon disappeared forever, leaving no trace that she had ever existed. At first, when your aura disappeared, we thought about avenging you. But when we got there, we were also killed. The story of what happened after Higa died was left unfinished. Hiroshi let the sound of waves drown out what he was about to say. Dango was silent, staring at the sand colored by the sunset. I couldn't get there in time because low-level demon was still surrounded near in temple. When I arrived, I saw Kaoru crying next to your bodies. Tateyama continued the unsuccessful revenge story of his teammate. She asked me to take you guys back to the temple, asked Hina to treat your wounds and didn't allow me to watch the revival process for you guys. After that, Hina and I were knocked unconscious. When I woke up, I saw we and Mzonko was in the temple. This plan is quite good, isn't it? Hiroshi commented and picked up a few pebbles on the beach to look at. By some sophisticated trick, the murderer erased all traces of the massacre. The grass, trees, and rocks didn't hold any clues. As soon as the mysterious magic was recovered, the pebble in Hiroshi's hand suddenly shattered. The attention of the group of former detectives simultaneously turned to the sky. Lifeless eyes hidden behind crimson clouds gradually faded and disappeared. I have a feeling that our dead is not just an ordinary murder. This is also a battle of wits between us and the creator of this world and Kaoru. Hiroshi affirmed and smiled faintly. If Kaoru was still here, we would have quite a few clues. But she's dead. You want to see her again. Dango's cold tone cut through the lame excuse. Hiroshi looked at his closest teammate and admitted, this life is impermanent. People I thought I had a chance to meet in the blink of an eye were never seen again. Hiroshi, don't let that rat die in vain. If you want to revenge, don't be sentimental. Dango reminded. That person is still following us. I have a feeling you changed because of his influence. The skeptic's reasoning made the fox laugh. Higa put his hands on his hips and grinned in response. Tateyama laughed like he was watching the climax of an expensive comedy. Dango looked at his teammates with a puzzled expression, then turned to face the sea. Sunset was gone. The darkness gradually swallowed the scene and obscured his amber eyes, making the expression on Dango's face even more unpredictable. The sound of whispering waves suddenly stopped. The sound of birds calling to their flock also drifted into silence as a streak of light like a shooting star streaked across the sky. Akiko arrived with bad news. Her face turned pale, and her tone was also urgent as if she was afraid she would forget what she was about to say. Lord Pluto has ordered the Death Realm Task Force to increase patrols on the Dimension Road. No one can get through now. Is there something new? Tateyama asked stupidly. Akiko nodded and answered. After Kaoru's death, the unusually hot winds on the other side of the magic net kept pouring in. To ensure the safety of the human world, Lord Pluto ordered to kill all demon that tried to cross the barrier. Kaoru is so naughty. Hiroshi forced himself to smile when he heard the news brought by Akiko. He looked at the female god of death, affirming, "Don't worry, we have no any intention of crossing to the other side of the magic net. Kaoru is dead. Whether the world over there survives or perishes has nothing to do with me." The fox put his hand on his coat pocket, deliberately lulling Hyan to sleep with the scent of sedative herbs wafting through his fingers. He understood that if the little goblin woke up, it would scream miserably again, demand that he take it to find Kaoru. Children didn't lie, and when Hyan was a reflection of its creator's thoughts, it would break the mask of resilience he created. That trick could not avoid the sharp observation eyes of his teammates. Akiko reminded the fox to spend more time with Hyan and then hurried back to the dead world. The group of former detectives left the beach when the lighthouse just turned on. Hiroshi placed Hyan in a wooden box lined with black velvet once he had returned to his own room. Unconsciously, the fox demon teased the sleeping little elf. The image of Kaoru sitting next to him, resting her head on the fox's shoulder, appeared and shattered as he turned his head towards the illusion. Hiroshi's sad smile was seen by his mischievous brother. For the first time in his life, he peeked at the fox but was not discovered. But this victory did not make him happy, but made him even sadder when he discovered that the purple flower had disappeared. Thinking that his brother and the owner of a Yame restaurant were angry with each other, the mischievous boy took his saving to buy a beautiful lipstick, wrapped it carefully in an eye-catching gift box, and brought it to a Yame restaurant. The gift box in his hand fell, the lid opened, and the lipstick many people dreamed of lying on the street. The restaurant full of old memories has become an empty land. No one knew where the innkeeper has gone. Everyone said that the Ayame restaurant disappeared overnight, and sometimes people saw mysterious figures approaching the empty lot and not coming back. Care, you come here again. The voice of memories drifts away with the wind. The naughty little brother stood silently for a long time, sighed softly, then picked up the unclaimed gift. It's almost dark. Why are you still here? Akiko, in the form of a young girl wearing glasses and a mask, slowly walked over and asked. Who are you? Care looked alert and proactively backed away. The deaf was slightly confused. When she still didn't know how to explain her appearance, the fox answered for her. That mysterious sister is my friend. Today she has a cold, so she has to wear a mask to avoid infecting others. And the fox looked at his younger brother and reminded him in a warm and friendly voice. It's dark. You're easily in danger wandering around alone like that. Mom and Dad didn't see you at home, so they told me to find you. Brother, where is my big sister? Care clutched the lipstick he just bought as if clutching despair in his heart. You promised to find big sister for me. But when she left, you didn't say any words. The cold wind blew through the leaves, pushing dark clouds to obscure the moon. At the moment of transition between light and darkness, a shapeless black shadow appeared behind Care. The fox's naughty little brother didn't feel it. He still patiently searched for a satisfactory answer in his brother's eyes. Akiko stood on the opposite side, shaking her head slightly to signal not to reveal the truth. She secretly threw a few rays of spiritual energy at the strange creature. Her power sank into the darkness and was lost. Akiko's aura and the pain in Care's heart made the dark creature grow larger. It opened its eyes, threatening the attacker with yellow eyeballs and blood-red threads. Brother, you haven't answered me yet. Where is my big sister? Why is this place an empty lot? Kaoru has something to do and has to go back to her hometown. Before she left, she sold this place to me. I had someone build a new Ayame restaurant. When Kaoru returns, I will give her a beautiful and spacious new restaurant. The fox demon patted his brother's head and explained. It's true that before her left, we had a bit of a conflict. But don't worry, every couple has a few arguments to understand each other better. You're lying. If it was a normal argument, she wouldn't leave this place. It's obvious she doesn't want to see you again. The fox's delicate cheeks turned a little red. He leaned close to his younger brother's ear and whispered, we were arguing about how many children we would have after getting married. Kaoru really likes children, and I'm afraid she'll have a hard time. Honestly, I don't want anyone to share Kaoru's feelings with me. So she was angry with me. Before leaving, Kaoru said that if a Ayame restaurant had enough big for a large family, she would return. That's why I thought about expanding the restaurant. I'm sorry for hiding it from you. Care's face, dark with sadness and doubt, suddenly brightened. He put the gift box and lipstick in the fox's hand and happily said, I've already bought an apology gift for you. When my big sister come back, you must apologize properly. Then the boy, who had never experienced anything in life, held out his little finger, looked straight into the fox's eyes, and seriously commanded, promise me. The fox shook his hand at his younger brother and nodded slightly, I will. The dark creature gradually became transparent and blended into the blackness of the evening. Akiko breathed a sigh of relief when she saw Care and Hiroshi leave the land full of memories. The Styx River ferryman continued to bring souls to the dead world, unaware that someone had witnessed everything. The blue sports-style motorbike accompanied him to a high-rise building and stopped. He urgently went into another person's office, told everything and waited for direction. My child wandered around all afternoon just looking for big sister. Hiroshi's stepfather asked the detective who had just brought back the news with an extremely serious attitude. The detective nodded seriously. The middle-aged man pulled out the reward money from his coat pocket and gave it to the detective and signaled him to go out. Waiting for the office to become a private space, he took out the family photo in his wallet and looked at it and remembered the family of 3 from before. Dad, I'm home. Care's announcement and the sparse knocking sound caused Hiroshi's stepfather to quickly put the old photo in his wallet. Care saw it all. He ran over, quickly grabbed his father's hand and the old photo, and scolded, Dad, you act like I'm an outsider. I'm afraid you're just sad. Mom and your younger brother died on your birthday. For several years, you didn't celebrate your birthday and constantly blamed yourself. At times like these, I'm very afraid of losing you. I want to say the death of your mom and your brother is an arrangement of fate, you're not at fault. Your will is also not at fault. But in return, you found me a very kind mother and a very wonderful brother. Care chose comforting words and looked mysterious. Someday, our family will have more people and it will be more crowded than now. The fox demon's stepfather nodded, but deep thoughts flashed in his eyes. A talented son like Hiroshi cannot marry a shop owner of unknown origin. He pretended to ask a few more things about the mysterious daughter-in-law but received nothing but the name Kaoru. He began searching for information about other girls more worthy of Hiroshi and stopped by a portrait of a beautiful girl named Fushaheim. He has gone too far. Lord Pluto looked at Hiroshi's stepfather nodding with satisfaction in the office and affirmed. Kaoru just passed away, and the former detectives haven't had their revenge yet. It will be a long time before Hiroshi loves someone else. How long has it been, my lord? Zero stood next to him, asking stupidly. A fox's loyalty is measured by its life. Do you understand? Zero didn't ask any more. The frightened face secretly looked up at the mirror reflecting the situation of the human world. The shy green-skinned demon looked a little sad when he saw Hiroshi taking care of Hyan. Next to the fox was an illusion of Kaoru playing with Hiroshi's red hair that she couldn't touch. Hiroshi revoked the illusion, went alone to the dimensional road and looked at the Death Realm task force patrolling there. They didn't make difficult for the fox demon when he got close to the barrier. The group of former detectives have sacrificed so much for the demon world, the human world, and the dead world, so the task force always gives the detectives a favor within acceptable limits. Hiroshi knew that and didn't ask for more. He stood in front of the magic net, looking at the dark space on the opposite side. Kaoru's image suddenly appeared and faded very quickly with the strange wind that just came. Stop lying to yourself. You really want to meet her, right? Dango stepped forward, glanced at his closest teammate and provoked him. If you want to change the present, you must return to the past. Dare you try? Hiroshi couldn't refuse. And if he wants to go, we must give our full support. The King of Hell advised Zero and Akiko. He crossed his arms over his chest, frowning thoughtfully. The scene of the dark creature clinging to Care suddenly returned. After pondering for a long time, the King of Hell began to divide new tasks between his two assistants. Zero, you check the punishment room and the cells. If there's anything strange, report it to me. Akiko, you and Fuese keep following that kid Care. In the worst case scenario, you have to bring him back here right away. Yes. Akiko quickly returned to the human world. Zero and a few other Grim Reapers went down to the penalty room. Everything was okay. There are no signs that any ghosts or monsters have escaped. After half a day of patrolling, Zero returned to report and was shaken when he heard the King of Hell conclude, "Things are worse than we thought. We must act before it's too late."